Hollywood screenwriters are either geniuses or time travelers, because some films basically handed us a roadmap to the future and we just laughed it off as fiction. What if the movies you dismissed as fantasy were actually prophecy disguised as entertainment? From AI companions to mass surveillance nightmares, here are 12 films that saw tomorrow coming before the rest of us even opened our eyes. The Cable Guy, 1996. Jim Carrey's unhinged stalker comedy bombed at the box office, and critics called it too dark for its own good. But hidden inside all that chaos was a monologue that basically predicted the entire 21st century. Carrey's character goes on a wild rant about how soon we will have cable, telephone, and computer all in one. He talks about playing video games with someone in Vietnam, ordering a pizza without picking up the phone, and accessing the internet from our TVs. Audiences in 1996 thought it was absurd rambling from a crazy character. Fast forward to today, and that speech reads like a product launch from Apple or Google. Director Ben Stiller buried this prediction inside a dark comedy about loneliness and obsession, which made it even more eerie. The film earned just $60 million domestically against expectations of blockbuster numbers and was considered a major disappointment. Yet now it lives on as this strange time capsule that nailed the concept of smart TVs, streaming, and interconnected devices. The movie understood that technology would fuse entertainment, communication, and commerce into one unstoppable force. Critics who dismissed it as weird and unfunny missed that Stiller and Carrey were warning us about the digital prison we would all willingly walk into. Hindsight makes this forgotten flop look like genuine prophecy. WarGames, 1983. Before hacking was a household word, this Matthew Broderick thriller introduced mainstream audiences to the terrifying concept of cyber warfare. A teenage kid accidentally breaks into a military supercomputer and nearly starts World War III by playing what he thinks is a game. In 1983, most people barely understood what a modem was. Yet this film accurately predicted teenagers becoming hackers, the dangers of automated defense systems, and the reality of digital attacks on infrastructure. The Pentagon reportedly took this movie seriously enough to review their own security protocols after it came out. President Ronald Reagan watched WarGames at Camp David and became so disturbed he asked his Joint Chiefs if something like this could actually happen. Their answer was yes, probably even worse than shown. This led directly to the first national directive on computer security in American history. The movie earned over $79 million and received an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Screenplay. Broderick's character discovers that the only winning move in global thermonuclear war is not to play, which feels painfully relevant in our era of cyber attacks on hospitals, power grids, and governments. Director John Badham crafted what many now consider the godfather of all hacker films. What seemed like paranoid science fiction in the Reagan era is now just Tuesday news. WarGames understood that the next battlefield would be digital long before the rest of us caught up. Demolition Man, 1993. Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes woke up from cryogenic freezing into a sanitized 2032 where physical contact is banned. All restaurants are Taco Bell, and profanity earns you automatic fines. Critics dismissed it as goofy action nonsense when it opened. 3 decades later, it looks like a documentary about pandemic life and corporate monopolies. The film predicted touchless payment systems, video conferencing for professional meetings, self-driving cars, voice-activated everything, and a society obsessed with avoiding germs and offensive speech. Sandra Bullock's character explains that anything bad for you is now illegal, including salt, cursing, and touching other people. Sound familiar to anyone who lived through 2020? The film also predicted a world where one mega corporation dominates the food industry after all competitors collapse. In our reality, major chains absorb smaller businesses yearly while tech platforms control more of daily life. Director Marco Brambilla created what seemed like satire but aged into uncomfortable social commentary. The movie earned $158 million worldwide and became a cult classic specifically because time proved its jokes right. Arnold Schwarzenegger becoming a politician was mentioned as a gag in the film and then actually happened. Demolition Man is that rare action flick that makes you laugh until you realize nobody is joking anymore. It predicted our sterile, corporate-controlled, easily offended future with shocking precision. Total Recall, 1990. Arnold Schwarzenegger's mind-bending Mars adventure gave us mutants, alien artifacts, and one of cinema's wildest twists. It also casually showed full-body scanners, self-driving taxicabs, and video walls advertising products directly to pedestrians. In 1990, these concepts felt like pure fantasy to audiences watching Arnie fight through hallways on the Red Planet. Now full-body scanners exist at every airport, autonomous vehicles roam city streets, and targeted advertising follows us across every screen we own. Director Paul Verhoeven packed his sci-fi spectacle with tech predictions that felt absurd at the time. The Johnny Cab sequences showing driverless taxis looked ridiculous to 1990 moviegoers. Today, companies spend billions trying to perfect exactly that technology. The film earned $261 million worldwide and cemented Schwarzenegger as the king of action, sci-fi. Based on Philip K. Dick's short story, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, the movie asked deep questions about memory, reality, and identity that feel even more relevant in our age of deepfakes and digital manipulation. Verhoeven understood that technology would reshape not just transportation, but the very concept of truth itself. Total Recall predicted a future where you cannot trust your own memories, or the screens constantly feeding you information. That was speculative fiction in 1990, but absolute reality in the 2020s. What you see might not be real, and that terrifying concept was planted in cinema 3 decades ago. The Truman Show, 1998. Jim Carrey played a man whose entire life is secretly broadcast to millions without his knowledge or consent. Every person he knows is an actor, and every moment is manufactured for entertainment. Critics called it a brilliant satire, and audiences turned it into a $264 million global hit. What nobody fully grasped was that the film predicted the reality television explosion that would dominate the next 2 decades. Big Brother premiered just 2 years later. Survivor changed network television forever. Keeping Up with the Kardashians turned ordinary people into global celebrities. Director Peter Weir crafted something deeper than mere prediction, though. He anticipated our willingness to watch real people suffer, succeed, and fail for our amusement. The Truman Show understood that audiences would accept manufactured reality as genuine entertainment. Carrey delivered a performance many consider his finest, showing the horror of discovering your life belongs to strangers. The film also predicted our modern privacy crisis, where corporations and governments watch our every move. Truman eventually breaks free, but the film asks whether we ever could. Social media turned everyone into voluntary Trumans, broadcasting our lives to cameras and algorithms. We just did it to ourselves. The movie earned Carrey a Golden Globe and became a cultural reference point for surveillance anxiety. What felt like exaggerated commentary in 1998 became standard living in the smartphone era. Everyone is Truman now, except we installed the cameras ourselves. Enemy of the State, 1998. Will Smith runs for his life after accidentally receiving footage of a political assassination orchestrated by a corrupt NSA official. The government tracks him using satellites, credit cards, traffic cameras, and listening devices hidden everywhere. In 1998, this felt like paranoid thriller nonsense designed to sell popcorn. 15 years later, Edward Snowden proved the film was actually underselling government surveillance capabilities. The NSA was doing far more than anything shown in director Tony Scott's action-packed conspiracy epic. Gene Hackman plays a former intelligence operative who explains exactly how the surveillance state operates. His descriptions of data collection, phone monitoring, and tracking technology sounded like science fiction to 1998 audiences. Today, those same capabilities are standard features on consumer smartphones. The film earned $250 million worldwide and was praised for its intense action sequences and topical paranoia. What nobody expected was journalists confirming that real intelligence programs made the movie look quaint by comparison. Enemy of the State predicted that privacy would become an illusion in the digital age. It showed how easily authorities could destroy an innocent person using total information awareness. Critics who dismissed it as overblown thriller mechanics ate their words when classified documents proved reality was worse. Scott created an entertainment product that accidentally documented our future. Every prediction landed, and most were conservative estimates of what was actually coming. Network, 1976. Paddy Chayefsky wrote possibly the most prophetic screenplay in Hollywood history. A veteran news anchor has a mental breakdown on live television, and instead of firing him, the network exploits his rage for ratings. Howard Beale becomes a mad prophet, yelling at viewers to get mad about their lives while executives count advertising dollars. In 1976, this was considered savage satire of network television. Today, it reads like a production manual for cable news and YouTube commentary culture. Peter Finch won a posthumous Oscar for his portrayal of Beale, whose famous rant about being mad as hell became one of cinema's most quoted moments. Director Sidney Lumet created a film that predicted reality television, infotainment, corporate media consolidation, and the monetization of public outrage. The movie shows executives literally producing a show around domestic terrorists because controversy equals ratings. The film earned $23 million against a modest budget and swept awards season with 4 Academy Awards. Chayefsky understood that anger would become entertainment, that news would become performance, and that corporations would happily destroy society for quarterly profits. Every screaming pundit on cable news today is a character Chayefsky invented nearly 50 years ago. Network did not just predict our media landscape. It basically drew the blueprints and handed them to executives. The movie remains terrifyingly relevant because we followed its predictions exactly. Gattaca, 1997. Andrew Niccol directed a film about genetic discrimination that flopped on release and became a cult classic through sheer prophetic accuracy. Ethan Hawke plays a man deemed genetically inferior who fights to achieve his dreams in a society that judges people by their DNA. In 1997, genetic testing was expensive and limited. Today, companies offer DNA analysis for under $100, and employers increasingly consider genetic information in hiring decisions. The movie's warning about a genetic underclass feels closer to reality every year. The film predicted genetic screening for job applications, dating profiles based on DNA compatibility, and a permanent biological caste system. Insurance companies already use genetic information to calculate risk. Law enforcement maintains DNA databases of millions of citizens. Parents select embryos based on genetic profiles in fertility clinics worldwide. Gattaca earned just $12 million domestically and was considered a commercial disappointment. But Niccol created something that grows more relevant annually as CRISPR technology and genetic engineering advance rapidly. The film argues that your genes should not determine your destiny, yet our society moves steadily toward exactly the discrimination Gattaca warned against. Jude Law's supporting performance as a genetically perfect swimmer paralyzed by accident earned widespread praise. The movie understood that scientific progress without ethical guardrails creates new forms of oppression. Everything Gattaca predicted is either happening now or will happen within our lifetimes. Wall-E, 2008. Pixar made an animated film about a lonely robot cleaning up an abandoned Earth and accidentally predicted smartphone addiction, video chat dependency, and the obesity crisis all at once. The humans in Wall-E float on hover chairs, stare constantly at screens, and have forgotten how to walk or interact face-to-face. In 2008, critics praised the environmental message while noting the human scenes felt exaggerated. Today, those same scenes look like commentary on modern life. The film earned $533 million worldwide and won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. Director Andrew Stanton created a love story between robots that worked as gorgeous cinema while hiding brutal social commentary. The humans aboard the Axiom spaceship cannot look away from their screens long enough to notice each other or the stars outside. They consume processed food constantly, while robots handle every physical task. Stanton claims he was not predicting anything specific, but the accuracy is undeniable. Screen time statistics show average adults spending over 7 hours daily on devices. Video calls replaced physical meetings permanently after 2020. Food delivery apps mean many people never enter kitchens. WALL-E presented a nightmare, and we treated it as a roadmap. The film's message about environmental destruction gets remembered, but its predictions about human behavior proved equally accurate. We are becoming those floating screen addicts one swipe at a time. Back to the Future Part 2, 1989. Robert Zemeckis sent Marty McFly to October 21, 2015, creating the most analyzed prediction list in cinema history. The film showed video calling, biometric payments, wearable technology, drones, and wall-mounted flat-screen televisions throughout homes. Fans counted down to the actual date and compared predictions against reality. The score was impressive enough to cement this sequel as a genuine prophecy machine. Video calls through tablets exist exactly as shown. Fingerprint and facial recognition payments are standard. Smart glasses flopped, but the technology exists. Drones capture news footage and deliver packages. Giant flat televisions hang in living rooms worldwide. The film even predicted the Chicago Cubs breaking their championship drought, though it got the year slightly wrong. Zemeckis and writer Bob Gale researched emerging technologies extensively before crafting their 2015 vision. The production design teams created a future that felt fun rather than dystopian, which made its accuracy even more striking. The sequel earned $331 million worldwide and disappointed some critics who preferred the original's simpler time travel. But as 2015 actually arrived, appreciation for the film's vision grew substantially. Nike eventually created the self-lacing shoes shown in the film. Pepsi released a limited edition bottle matching the movie's design. Back to the Future Part 2 became a cultural event all over again because so many predictions landed. Few films have ever been so thoroughly tested against reality and scored so well. Her, 2013. Spike Jonze directed Joaquin Phoenix falling in love with an artificial intelligence operating system and accidentally predicted the entire AI companion industry. The film shows a near future where people form deep emotional bonds with software voices that learn their preferences, anticipate their needs, and provide constant companionship. Critics praised the performances and emotional depth while noting the premise felt far-fetched. A decade later, millions of users interact with AI chatbots for emotional support and companionship. Phoenix plays Theodore, a lonely man writing personal letters for strangers who finds genuine connection with his AI operating system named Samantha. Scarlett Johansson's voice performance earned widespread acclaim for making artificial intelligence feel genuinely alive. The film won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay and earned $48 million against its modest budget. What seemed like philosophical speculation became business reality as companies developed AI companions specifically designed for emotional connection. Wireless earbuds allowing constant AI communication exist exactly as shown. People report forming attachments to chatbots that feel disturbingly similar to Theodore's experience. Jonze created what he called a love story in the digital age, but actually documented where human relationships were heading. Her predicted that technology would not just connect us, but replace human connection entirely for some users. That prediction is playing out in real time as AI companions become increasingly sophisticated. Minority Report, 2002. Steven Spielberg hired actual futurists to design his 2054 Washington, D.C., and the results remain the gold standard for cinematic prediction. Tom Cruise moves through a world of gesture-based interfaces, personalized advertising, retinal scanning, predictive policing, and autonomous vehicles that climb walls. The production team included scientists, engineers, and technology experts who brainstormed what genuine advancements might emerge over 50 years. Nearly every prediction has arrived decades ahead of schedule. Gesture interfaces like those used in the film inspired the development of Kinect and similar technologies. Personalized advertising targets users across all platforms using data collection that exceeds what the film imagined. Retinal and facial recognition unlock phones and verify identities globally. Predictive policing algorithms attempt to forecast crimes before they happen, despite massive controversy about bias and effectiveness. The film earned $358 million worldwide and reminded audiences that Spielberg could deliver blockbusters with genuine ideas. Critics praised the philosophical questions about free will and determinism alongside the spectacular action sequences. Spielberg created the most influential vision of near-future technology ever put on screen. Tech companies reportedly studied this film when developing products. The movie asked whether preventing future crimes justified surveillance and punishment of people who had not yet acted. That question haunts every algorithm predicting human behavior today. Minority Report did not just predict technology, it predicted the moral crises that technology would create.